Think the Wild West was all about dramatic shootouts and heroic cattle drives? Well, think again. The real life of a cowboy was a gritty, grueling test of survival, and they had a whole bag of tricks up their sleeves that you've probably never seen in the movies. Today, we're uncovering 10 hidden tricks that cowboys used to stay alive in the harsh and unforgiving American frontier. From turning their own gear into life-saving tools to using nature's pharmacy, these secrets reveal the true ingenuity of the men who tamed the West. So, saddle up because we're about to ride back in time. First up, let's talk about a cowboy's most prized possession, his boots. They weren't just for fashion. A smart cowboy knew that the high slanted heel, known as a Cuban heel, wasn't just for looks. It was a safety feature. When a cowboy was thrown from his horse, this heel was designed to prevent his foot from sliding all the way through the stirrup, which could lead to being dragged to death. But here's a lesser-known trick. In a pinch, that sturdy heel could be used as a hammer for small repairs on the trail or even to break up hard ground to find water. Cowboys also stuffed their boots with grass or newspaper for extra insulation during freezing nights. Their footwear was a multi-tool they couldn't live without. Next, let's look at another iconic piece of gear, the bandana. You might think it was just to keep dust out of their mouths, and you'd be right, but that was just the beginning. A bandana was the cowboy's Swiss Army knife. It could be used as a makeshift bandage for a wound, a tourniquet to stop severe bleeding, or a sling for a broken arm. They'd use it as a coffee filter, straining gritty grounds from their morning brew. It served as a signal flag to communicate with other riders over long distances. In winter, it protected their ears from frostbite, and in summer, they'd soak it in water and tie it around their neck to stay cool. It was even used as a temporary hobble to keep a horse from wandering too far off. One simple piece of cloth, a dozen life-saving uses. Trick number 3 involves something you might not expect: their belts. A cowboy's belt was more than just something to hold up his pants. Many cowboys used what was called a money belt. This wasn't just a clever name, it was literally a belt with a hidden, hollowed-out compartment on the inside where they could stash cash, gold dust, or other small valuables. In a land rife with bandits and outlaws, flashing a wallet was asking for trouble. By hiding their life savings around their waist, they could protect their earnings from thieves. If they were robbed, they could hand over the pocket change while their real wealth remained safely hidden in plain sight. It was the original travel security accessory. Now, for a truly ingenious survival hack, using their own saddles as a survival kit. The saddle wasn't just a seat, it was their mobile base of operations. Tucked away in the various straps and compartments, a cowboy would carry essential supplies. But the real trick was in how they used the saddle itself. At night, the saddle became a pillow, offering a bit of comfort on the hard ground and keeping their head elevated to watch for predators or listen for their herd. More importantly, it acted as a windbreak. By positioning their saddle just right, they could create a small barrier against the biting prairie winds, which could mean the difference between a restless night and freezing to death. Their saddle was their home on the range. Let's move on to their diet. Life on a cattle drive wasn't a gourmet experience. The food was basic and repetitive, mostly consisting of beans, bacon, and hardtack biscuits. So, how did they avoid malnutrition and scurvy? This is where trick number 5 comes in: foraging. Cowboys became amateur botanists out of necessity. They knew which wild berries were safe to eat, which plants could be boiled into a vitamin-rich tea, and which roots could supplement their meager diet. Prickly pear cactus, for example, was a valuable source of both food and water. They'd carefully burn off the spines and eat the fleshy pads. They also learned to identify wild onions and garlic to add flavor and nutrients to their bland meals. This knowledge of the local flora was a critical survival skill. Speaking of plants, trick number 6 was the cowboy's medicine cabinet. With the nearest doctor often hundreds of miles away, cowboys had to be their own medics. they developed a practical knowledge of herbal remedies. For instance, they used the leaves of the yarrow plant, which has antiseptic and anti-inflammatory properties, to treat cuts and wounds. They chew on willow bark, a natural source of salicylic acid, the active ingredient in aspirin, to relieve pain and fever. Sage was often used to soothe sore throats and digestive issues. They even used tobacco juice, believe it or not, as an antiseptic for minor cuts or to draw out the poison from insect stings. It was a rough and ready form of medicine, but it often worked. Our seventh trick is all about their relationship with their horse. A cowboy's horse was his partner, and their bond went beyond simple transportation. Cowboys learned to read their horse's body language with incredible accuracy. A horse's ears, for instance, could tell a cowboy if there was a predator nearby long before he could see or hear it himself. If a horse suddenly became nervous or refused to go forward, a smart cowboy knew there was danger ahead, perhaps a rattlesnake, a hidden ravine, or an impending ambush. Trusting their horse's instincts saved countless lives. The horse's superior senses of hearing and smell acted as an early warning system, a vital tool in a world full of hidden threats. Trick number 8 is a clever one involving navigation. Out on the vast, featureless plains, getting lost was a death sentence. While they used the sun and stars, they also had other more subtle methods. One was observing the behavior of animals. For example, they knew that bison trails often led to water sources or safe river crossings. Another trick was to look at the trees. In the northern hemisphere, moss tends to grow more thickly on the north side of a tree trunk, where there's less direct sunlight. By observing this simple natural sign, a cowboy could get a rough sense of direction even on a cloudy day. They also learned to read the land itself, recognizing subtle shifts in terrain that could guide them back to a familiar trail. Coming in at number 9 is the art of starting a fire without matches. Matches were a luxury and could easily get wet and become useless. Every cowboy needed a reliable backup plan. Many carried a flint and steel kit, but even that could be lost. A more hidden trick involved their own firearms. A cowboy could take a cartridge, carefully pull the bullet out, and pour a small pile of the gunpowder onto some dry tinder. Then, by firing a cap from his pistol or rifle into the gunpowder, he could create a spark to ignite the tinder and start a fire. This was a dangerous method and a last resort, but in a life or death situation where a fire was needed for warmth or to cook food, it was an invaluable skill to have. Finally, our 10th hidden trick is about something simple: salt. On long cattle drives, both the cowboys and the cattle were at risk of dehydration and exhaustion. Salt was crucial for replenishing electrolytes lost through sweat. Cowboys would often carry small pouches of salt with them. But here's the trick: they didn't just use it for seasoning their food. They would sometimes add a pinch of salt to their water canteens. This not only helped their bodies retain water more effectively, but also made brackish or unpleasant tasting water from a questionable source a bit more palatable. For the cattle, they would create salt licks by finding salty earth or placing rock salt in strategic locations to keep the herd healthy and hydrated on the trail. A simple mineral, but a life-saving one. So there you have it. 10 hidden tricks that reveal the true resourcefulness and grit of the American cowboy. Their survival depended not on movie-style heroics, but on a deep practical knowledge of their gear, their animals, and the environment around them. It was a life of constant adaptation and clever improvisation. Which of these tricks surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments below. We love hearing from you and learning what you found interesting. If you enjoyed this journey into the real Wild West, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more amazing stories from history. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.